Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today for Collaborative Divorce 201 Advanced Topics with Russell Alexander, Carrie Heinzl, and Jarret Johnston. My name is Shannon, and I'm part of the Community Engagement and Events team at Russell Alexander Collaborative Family Lawyers. I'm going to start with a bit of housekeeping, and I'll let you know what's on the agenda today. I'll also be introducing our panelists today, and then we'll be passing things over to them to get started with their presentation. So to let you know what's on the agenda today, in this 1 hour presentation, Russell, Carrie, and Jarret will be sharing their insights on collaborative practice, and they'll be covering the following topics. They're going to first of all start off with a little bit of a recap from our Collaborative Divorce 101 presentation that we did in December. Next, they'll be covering full teams. Are you working remotely, and what are the advantages and disadvantages of working remotely? What do you foresee will be the standard for practicing in the future, remote, hybrid, or in office? How do you manage all the documents you need for a collaborative case? How are the changes to the Divorce Act impacting collaborative practice? Expert reports, runaway trains, saving the golden goose, and then impasse and hitting a wall. And then our panels will also be saving some dedicated Q&A time at the end of the presentation, along with some questions that will be answered throughout, but we will save a bit of time at the end of the presentation for any questions coming in. So we'll do our best to get to as many as we can during that time. And we also just ask you to keep in mind that the content of this webinar is to provide you with general information on separation and divorce and is not to be considered as legal advice. And just one last note before we get to our introductions, I just want to mention that I'll be providing links to helpful resources mentioned throughout the presentation on today's topic in a follow-up email tomorrow, so you can keep an eye out for that. So without further ado, I'm going to get to introductions of today's hosts. From the Greater Toronto Area, we have Russell Alexander, Carrie Heinzl, and Jarret Johnston. So to start off, we have Carrie Heinzl, who is the founder of Fairmore Family Law Solutions. Fairmore offers independent, fact-based financial analytics and settlement insights to individuals and couples working through separation and divorce. And Carrie is an active collaborative process trainer, co-teaching the introductory program for new collaborative professionals and advanced level trainings for the seasoned practitioner. She has taught statistic research methodologies and psychology at college and university levels. In addition, Carrie has presented at conferences for the Ontario Association of Collaborative Professionals, Family Dispute Resolution Institute of Ontario, Annual Conference, and the International Academy of Collaborative Professionals. Next up, we have Jarret, and Jarret practices primarily in family law, specializing in litigation, collaborative, and traditional settlement work. Jarret also offers services in wills and estates and in real estate. And he sits on the executive board for the Kawartha Collaborative Practice, the executive board of the Victoria Halliburton Law Association, and is a director for the Children's Services Council. Jarret is passionate about getting his clients the best results possible with the least amount of financial, mental, and emotional damage, whether in the boardroom or in the courtroom. Next, we have Russell, who is the founder and senior partner of Russell Alexander Collaborative Family Lawyers. And with over 20 years of experience, Russell offers a wealth of knowledge and expertise in collaborative family law. He uses his experience with a client-focused approach by creating unique solutions for each of his clients to enable them and their families to move forward with their lives in a compassionate and collaborative manner. So now that you know a little bit more about our panelists today and what's on the agenda, I'm going to pass things over to Russell to get started.
Thank you for those kind words, Shannon. We have polls throughout today, so please participate. It's anonymous. Some of the feedback we've gotten from previous live events is people really like the interaction of the polls, so please participate. Q&A throughout. Throw your any questions that you have into the chat. Shannon's going to let us know what they are. We'll answer them as we go throughout the program. And please provide us with your feedback when this is over so we know how we can improve this and make this better. We do have a dream team this week. I say that every week, but this is a really great group that we have joining us. And since we have such a great team, Shannon, are you able to offer our guarantee?
As always. We hope that everyone enjoys the presentation today, but if anyone's unsatisfied, we are offering a money-back guarantee for our free webinar today.
You can't go wrong. Let's run that poll. Let's get at it. Thank you so much. So we're going to do polls throughout. just to get a flavor of our audience and to find out what people think. First poll questions on the screen. What is your reason for joining us today? You're going through a separation or divorce, or you're a legal professional, other professional. You want to learn more to help a friend, or something else. If you have something else, you can put it into the box. Shannon's going to get it to the host. So we'll give everybody a few minutes to get their answers in. And while we're waiting, let's go back to one of our audience questions, which we have in advance. So thank you who sent the questions in advance. So we started off by asking, how do you get the opposing spouse to start in collaborative when we were doing our introductions? Carrie, how do you convince opposing counsel to take the collaborative route? Can you give me an answer in a minute or less?
I can. I think the best thing to get the other counsel, not opposing, the other counsel on board.
That's an adversarial term, right? Okay, this is the advanced group. Okay, go ahead.
So a really great way of getting the other counsel involved is asking them why they are hesitant to move forward with
We're having some audio there.
Finding out their why can usually has nothing to do with collaborative. It has us getting people on board.
Okay.
Are we back?
Yeah, your audio was cutting out a little bit, but good answer. Ask why and what the refusal is, or why they're reluctant. So let's take a look at our poll results. All right, so going through separation and divorce, almost 30%, legal professional, close to 30, other professional, 30%, helping a friend and other, 6%. So a fairly diverse audience today. Thank you for answering that. We're just going to do a real quick recap. So we did an introduction to collaborative divorce a few weeks ago. I think Shannon can make that video available if you want to rewatch it. You can email her and she'll try to get you a link out. So just a high level overview of what we talked about the first time, the basics of collaborative practice, sign a participation agreement. The lawyers agree not to go to court. The lawyers also agree not to take advantage of each other's mistakes. So if we notice something wrong in the documents or they did the math incorrectly, we're gonna identify that to make sure we come up with the correct result. We talked about the role of neutrals in the collaborative process. So we're not going to go through this deeply today. That was done in 101. Today's more advanced topics. So the role of the family professional and the role of the financial neutral, how they interact with collaborative practice. And then finally, we also looked at the roadmap, which set out exactly the steps you're going to follow to do your matter collaboratively. So you build the foundation, you introduce the parties to the process, you gather and exchange information, you identify goals and interests, you identify choices, you evaluate the consequence of each choice, and then you come to a decision and implement it. So that's, a 1 hour presentation in a minute or less, but we're just doing a quick overview and recap from 101. If you want to learn more about the basics, contact us and we'll get you the information. So let's do another quick poll and then we're going to get into the substance of our program today. So poll number 2, what we got on the screen here. All right, what are your biggest concerns about using a team? So you have 2 lawyers and your clients, but what if we bring other people in, a family professional, family neutral, someone else? So we want to know what your concerns are about using a full team in the collaborative process. Who do you use? Do I need a full team? What are the benefits? What do I do if there is a team? How about the costs for the client or the process, and all of the above? So what we want to get an understanding is what your concerns are. If you haven't been using a full team, or if you haven't participated in a full team, if you're going through the process, why not? Or has this been explained to you? So we'll give everybody just a moment to answer those, and let's see if we can find, well, I do have a question on this, but I don't want to give away the answer quite yet because going into Carrie's next slide. But maybe how does collaborative differ from mediation? Any takers for that one? This is an audience question that came in ahead of our presentation.
I can take that one if you want.
Sure.
Or Carrie, I'll leave it to you.
You know what? I think this is a great question for all of us, quite frankly.
Yeah. This is a common question. In my initial consults, I always talk to clients about the difference between mediation and collaborative, because they both fall under that umbrella of family dispute resolution. One thing that you see commonly with mediation is that the lawyers aren't directly present in the sessions. With collaborative, when we do our group meetings, you have your lawyer sitting there presently with you. I find that clients like that because of the efficiency. When you have on-the-spot legal advice in a meeting, there's no delay. Whereas if you go to a mediation session, you're there for an hour and a half, and then you have to schedule an appointment with your lawyer 3 weeks later just to get some of those questions that popped into your brain during the mediation session answered, and then go back to the next session. There's a lot of delay inherent in that process. So I find a lot of clients like the on-the-spot lawyer present legal advice.
Yeah, and not all mediators have legal training, right? And so sometimes the result's different. When you do collaborative, you're still applying the legal model. You're getting legal advice. But that was a great answer, Jarret. Thank you. So let's take a look at our poll results. Who to use, 17%. Whether they need a full team, 14%. Understanding the benefits, 21%. Costs, almost 40% costs for the client is a big concern, and all the above. So quite a variety of answers there. We're just to leave that up for another minute, but let's go into full teams. Carrie.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in the full team. Kind of just to add on to your question as well with mediation and why I really like full team is I look at collaborative as the best of all worlds. It takes the best parts of mediation and brings that into the process. It actually takes the best parts of litigation and brings it into the process and puts it all together. The wonderful thing about having a full team, so you have a financial expert dealing with everything that has to do with money, and you have a family professional who's dealing with the emotional aspects of divorce, they're dealing with parenting and those aspects, is that you have the right person doing the right job at the right time for the right amount of money. So people aren't scrambling, wondering what's going on. I like full teams because I find that having that family professional, they're a great asset to the financial professional because money is emotional. My view has always been, if you don't think money is emotional, try pumping gas and then realizing you don't have your debit card to pay for it, or win the lottery. I can say hand on heart that if I win the lottery, I will be highly emotional, and y'all will probably hear it throughout the entire province of Ontario. So I'm just saying.
I'm going to see you again if you win the lottery, right?
Well, exactly. I'll be back. But it's a wonderful thing. And the great thing is that we can rely on each other's expertise to make sure we're giving those clients the best possible service. They're getting a fulsome, expert-driven process and agreement. Yeah. It's wonderful. And it's tailored to their family. It's concierge, perfect service.
Great answer. And when we do the training and you guys spend a lot of time coaching new people to the collaborative process on how you sell team, right? Because there's a confidence level there if you're new to the process. What I just started doing is I just tell all my clients it's full team. That's just the way we do it. The clients don't know.
Yeah.
And I say if we need to drop a team member off. So when we're talking about full team, it could be a family professional, financial professional, it could be a corporate lawyer, there could be a business evaluator involved. And I'll tell our clients, if we don't need somebody, then we won't include them on the team. But that's usually how I get over that objection. But let's run a poll. I don't think we've run a poll for about 30 seconds. So let's see what we got up here.
But while we're running the poll, Russ, my 2 cents on that is I usually turn the conversation around cost around and talk about the cost savings that are potentially there for using the full team, right?
Mhm.
It's hard to see. It's hard to see when you've never gone through the process. But we talk about, debriefs we've had with our clients after and the cost savings that using one joint neutral family professional, using one joint neutral financial professional to gather the financial information instead of paying 2 different law firms. It's amazing. Once they get through it, they're like, oh yeah, you're right. It probably did save me paying your office and my.
Yeah.
It's such a great example. If you think when we get family professionals on quickly, right? Oftentimes they'll have a parenting plan ready for the first meeting. And without that family professional, we'd be talking about parenting issues for maybe 3-4 hours. So they probably saved $1,000 just by bringing that one team member in early. So, great point, Jarret. Okay, so poll 3, in working remotely, do you find, work life is off kilter, working more than ever? What is the weekend? I think I've heard that from Carrie a couple times. I am working less than ever. Wow, oddly surprised if anybody answers that. Hopefully none of my staff answer that question. I'm working really weird hours into the day night. I love not wearing pants. Well, and all of the above. So I don't know.
Can I answer this poll?
You gonna put bathrobe on? Yeah.
Where are you going with this, Jarret?
Let's answer, Jarret.
Jarret, I have concern.
Some wear a suit, some wear robes.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's
wait a minute. Jarret, what kind of robe?
Only the Hugh Hefner. Only the Hugh.
Oh, okay. Just had to check.
That is the real life example. All right, let's see what our audience says here. They probably think we're all gone nuts. All right, work-life balance to off kilter, 25%. I'm not working. I am working more than ever, 14%. Was the weekend? Yeah, there's a couple answers there. Working less than ever. Well, put some examples in the chat box so we can find out what you're doing. That sounds great. Working weird hours, 21%. Love not wearing pants, well, 20%, pretty strong showing, and all the above. It just shows you the kind of world we've evolved into. So thank you so much, everybody, for answering those questions. All right.
Jarret, 18%, you have kindred spirits.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I like it.
go get that bathrobe on. Are you working remotely? What are the advantages and disadvantages? Okay, Jarret. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I think there's lots of advantages of working remotely. A lot of people are stuck with the commute. It avoids the commute. We're able to put in more flexibility to our day. A lot of people are able to now sort of blend family life with their work life through the day. If you have to run out to pick a child up at school at midday, but you can get back for a meeting in the afternoon. I think this remote working is giving us a little bit more flexibility in our lives. And then, of course, there's disadvantages as well, but that's a few advantages I've noticed in my work life, and I'm sure.
What's so funny?
Fabulous.
And just to finish off my point, I think it's opened up the ability for clients that maybe live in rural areas, maybe have transportation problems to attend meetings. So there's been silver linings to this pandemic in terms of remote work and the flexibility and the efficiency. And I mean, there's some things we're doing now when it comes to coming together that's just so much more efficient than the way we used to do things.
You add in Zoom divorce, right? So that you use this platform to do your divorce. It's really got the opportunity to make the justice system much more efficient and much more accessible, right? Those were the big complaints prior to the pandemic about family court. Takes too long and it costs too much, right? That's all we heard.
Yeah.
Now, which was true, right? We wake up, we get ready for the day. We commute to the office or to court, find parking, maybe deal with traffic, go through court security, find your courtroom, find out where you are on the docket, wait 3-4 hours. Maybe the judge will send you back into the hall to work on something over lunch. Go back to see the judge, go home, 6-7 hour day, right?
Mm-hmm.
At the expense of the client. Now we start at 10:30. It starts pretty much at 10:30. Go for 45 minutes, maybe debrief your client. That 6-hour day is down to an hour and a half. So our clients are saving several $1,000s by keeping us at home and doing it electronically. I think it's fantastic. Your thoughts, Carrie?
You know, I think I've loved a lot of the advantages of working from home. I have to admit, there is a ton of cost savings, not only to the clients, but to ourselves as professionals, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
I think, though, the biggest disadvantages of working from home and doing this remotely is there's no longer a set line between what is a work life and what is my home life. I am a really bad candidate in the sense that all of a sudden I'll wake up at 3 a.m. and I'll go, oh, I forgot, or, oh, what about this, or something. And then I'll go down into my office and I'm working and it's 3 a.m. And the part that shocks me the most is when I get the response back, because I've sent an email out and there somebody started going, I was just thinking about this. So I think that's probably one of the biggest problems. And I think it's also changed expectations that because the professionals are working at home, that somehow we are also available 24/7 to our clients.
Yeah, no, it's, and there's a mental health component to that too, right?
Very large.
When I used to go in the office daily, I would meditate before I'd leave and when I'd come home, but now I don't meditate anymore. It's just the whole day is one complete blur, right? There's no like off switch. You really got to be careful about your mental health. Yeah. Great insights, guys. Let's do a poll. It's been too long. Poll number 4. All right, what do we have on the card here? What are your fears about leaving courts for collaborative? All right, so impasse, not making as much money, not being able to get my client to resolution, my client firing me and going back to court. I think everybody's always worried about that. All of the above. So we're going to let this run for a minute, but we had an audience question come in, which was fairly timely. Thank you for that. So Carrie, I'm going to throw this out to you. How many professionals make up a team?
Well, it's going to be, it depends. We always have legal counsel, so one legal counsel for each client. You will have one financial professional that will be your main financial professional, and that is a shared cost between both clients. And then we have one family professional, again, shared cost between both clients. Where things can now change and added professionals may come in, and it's usually at my first discretion as a financial professional and then speaking with the rest of the team, is we now may need to bring in a corporate lawyer if we have large corporate issues that we need to deal with. We may need to bring in tax specialists to deal with any overarching tax matters. We may need to bring in mortgage brokers if somebody's trying to keep the house and they're having a hard time doing that. Real estate agents, there is 47 different disciplines within finance alone. And your financial professional is not an expert in all 47 fields. It would be impossible to do that. But we do bring in those experts as we need them, as the file demands. So your core team is 4 people, but it can add on to that core depending on the needs of the family.
Say the core is really 6. If you're doing a lot of collaborative work, you have 2 lawyers. Basic team structure would include a family professional. Even if there's no kids, a family professional is going to help a lot, and a financial professional. So I would say 6. What do you think, Jarret?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. To Carrie's point, a lot of those extended professionals won't necessarily be collaboratively trained. So your core team, the two lawyers, the financial, the family, those individuals are experienced and trained in collaborative process. A lot of those extended professionals are excellent value adds to the process, but they just might not have this specialized training in collaborative.
I think they're issue specific, right?
Yeah,
Depending on, there's something that could be out of the team's wheelhouse, right? Could be a business valuation or a tax issue or a corporate issue.
Yeah.
And that's when you sprinkle in other team members, maybe not for the full ride, but to deal with that one particular issue. Great answer.
Absolutely.
That is really helpful. All right, so let's see what our audience is saying. Biggest fears: impasse, not making as much money, not being able to get the client to resolution, 36%. That was the highest turnout. Client firing you and going back to court, 18%, or all of the above. So that was really insightful. Thank you, everybody, for participating. Next, we're going to talk about what do you see the standard for practicing in the future? So what are you thinking here, Carrie?
Oh, I'm going a hybrid completely and totally on this one. I think there is a real need for all of us to move forward and to kind of get back to, I guess I'm going to put in air quotes, normal, but I think we're in our new normal right now. But I don't think Zoom's going away. I think this is a great way for us, for people that have tight schedules, work or live in remote locations, need to travel for work, and they can still attend a meeting. I think it's fantastic. I think there's going to be some in-office need as well, but I don't see working remotely going away, but I don't think it's going to be permanently just one way. I'm looking at hybrid all the way. What do you think, Jarret?
Yeah, I agree. I think there's certain things in the court system that still will have some requirement for physical presence and physicality for trials, for example, and long motions where our judges want to test witnesses' demeanor and they want someone there on the spot. There's certain things that we're just not going to be able to do away with physical presence, and same goes with outside of court as well. There's certain times where people want that physical touch, they want that face-to-face, and so I think there's going to be a big part of our society and our community that still wants that personal touch, and then there's going to be a huge part that wants the convenience and the flexibility of this new world we're living in. So absolutely, I agree 100%. I think it's going to be it's not going to be a one shoe fits all. I think everyone's going to be different in their perception on how they want to see the process work, whether it's all Zoom or some physicality to the process. But absolutely, I think hybrid's going to be the future.
Yeah, I think it depends on what we're talking about, right? We're doing a presentation today on advanced CP. If we're talking about court, as recently, I think it's November, there was a practice direction saying they're going to start going back to in-person hearings. That's gone out the window, right? It's going to be years before courts look anything remotely normal. And I think the administrative side of the court will be hybrid, right? You're going to do Zoom Rule 39 hearings and Zoom administrative hearings. Settlement conference trials will probably lean towards in-person when it's safe to do so. But when we talk about collaborative and when we talk to our colleagues in our practice groups, people hate not getting together, right? They love the group meetings. They love the monthly practice group meetings. I love going to counsel's office for the banana bread and, the banter, the social part of being a collaborative professional, right? And so I think there's a real need for collaborative professionals to once again meet in person. And I can see that this process will return to in person mainly. I think there could be some use to the hybrid in terms of professionals calls or professional Zoom calls. But I think the meat and potatoes of the process of the actual full team meetings will probably return back to in person. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think that's the nature of a lot of collaborative professionals. They're very social. They want to engage in groups And that would be my take.
You know,
Okay.
Russ,
Sorry, go.
I was just going to add that, you know, I also think it's going to depend on the dynamics within that family that we're having the team meetings on. I know I've heard from a lot of family professionals saying that, you know, for items for like domestic violence, doing a Zoom meeting is a lot safer for a lot of people. And so I think we're going to be using this in really interesting ways in the future, and not just because we're in a pandemic. I think we're going to find creative ways to keep this going in some things. And
the access to justice issue too, right? People in rural or northern communities can now access professionals quite easily, where before they couldn't. People in smaller communities can access professionals. So I think there's a lot of benefits. I agree. That was a great point, Carrie. I think you have our next one here as well. We're gonna not do a poll. Can you believe that?
I love this question.
Are you being sarcastic?
Maybe a little bit.
We're giving you all the hard ones, okay?
I know. We need to really start picking on Jarret soon. I'm really hoping we pick on him at some point.
Hey,
I'm going to have to start doing it myself.
Nice, Jarret. He's got a shirt and tie on today.
I know. I'm really quite impressed.
Actually, you know, if the audience wants, we do have a poll question that might be kind of fun at the end. We'll just give it a bit of a teaser. We'll see if everybody's interested, but go ahead.
All right. So managing all the documents you need for collaborative process, this is going to fall on your financial professional in a big way. I give people a couple of options. I have a secure link into my system where everybody has an individual link that they get and they can upload documentation to. They love it. They don't have to leave their home. They don't have to do too much running around. I always tell people, grab a glass of wine or a beer, sit down in front of your computer, save and upload, save and upload. Easiest way to do it. You know, managing it that way electronically. My other thing is that, you know, here's my mailing address, courier everything there, and I'll handle it. Most of the documents are going to fall onto your financial professional. It's up to us how we manage those documents. I know for me, I love taking chaos and making it simplistic. I do not believe in taking the simple and making it chaotic. So even when I'm doing a brief for my legal counsel, I want to make sure that everything is incredibly organized and laid out so that it's as simple as possible for everybody. I find simplicity saves people money.
Can I drill down a little bit? So we're in a pandemic, right?
Yeah.
How do we physically get you the documents? And are you using a software program, or how does counsel get the documents? Certainly we're not doing what we did before with, you know, 5 bankers boxes floating around.
Yeah, no, now what I do is I have a program that I use, and what I do is every single matter has a unique file code, and every client has a unique file code. And then once I'm done dealing with all of their information, I set up a separate file code that goes out to the professional team. So that's, for example, if Russ, you and Jarret are on the same team with me, I would send out my financial brief, and I set it up the exact same way as I ever did a paper brief. So it's all tabbed out, you know exactly what's there, but you now get a code. You go into the code and you can download every single piece of documentation into your systems. It's all nice and secure. As soon as everybody has everything, I close the links and you're no longer allowed to get into it, and everything is secured off.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
I think a huge benefit to that, Carrie, the way you do that is, this is something I explain to clients on. I think a lot of people don't realize until they get into a process like this, is different law firms and different lawyers sometimes use different forms in different documents. I still deal with a lot of old school lawyers that draft their own hand scratch net family property statement. I mean, and then you have 2 different lawyers and 2 different law firms putting different forms together and crossing like ships in the night. And I say to clients that just causes so much overhead and so much extra legal expense, where if you have one professional gathering things the exact same way from both of you on the exact same dates in the exact same forms. What a cost-saving technique.
Well, you're getting an agreed statement of fact from one individual that's vetted everything that you're seeing and then cross-references everything that you're seeing. I couldn't think of, if I was legal counsel, I'd put everything else how I would want it, and what I would want to see and what my questions would be. And that's the way I kind of went at it, is that if I was in your shoes, how would I want to receive this information? And organization is key. You can't hand over a mess. It's just not appropriate.
I agree. Having one person organize the documents and then share it with the team is definitely the most efficient way to proceed. A couple audience questions came in, and then we're going to go to our next topic. Do you think a mortgage agent would have a niche in separation divorce and can be an asset with a collaborative team during dispute resolution? Well, we know the answer to that. Carrie?
Absolutely. Personally, I'm always calling a mortgage agent and referring my clients to mortgage agents saying, hey, I need you to find out, can you afford this house? Are you going to be able to do this?
And we know mortgage agents with collaborative practice training. They join the groups and they come out to the meetings. They're fantastic. So the answer to that one is yes. Another quick question.
Sorry, Russ, just to add to that, York Regional Collaborative Practice and Durham Region Collaborative Practice both have associate memberships. So you don't need to be collaboratively trained. You can join as an associate member. And those associate members are mortgage brokers, real estate agents, those type of people that we want to call on to help.
It's a great way to network and build your own practice as a mortgage agent. So the answer to that is yes. One more quick question, and please keep your questions coming in. Since I had a mediator and the lawyers were present, does that mean I participated in the collaborative process, or did I still participate in the mediation process? Well, watch our 101 program that explains the collaborative process, but that involves participation in agreement, and the lawyers have special training. And so my answer to that question would be probably not. What do you think, Jarret?
Yeah, it would, yeah, I would say it was still in a mediation type form. Yeah.
All right, so the Divorce Act, what we need to know, all these changes this last year or two, Jarret?
Yeah, lots of changes. I don't know if we're able to make it available after. I think we are, but everyone can go on the Government of Canada websites, the provincial government. You can find out all the specific changes that came into effect on March 1st, just to bring yourself up to speed. I'm going to focus on three sort of changes that I think open the door for collaborative process, and I think that we need to focus on when we're looking at files that could be handled in the collaborative process. One is they've really solidified the duties of the court and the duties of the professionals to talk to clients about what else is available other than court right off the get-go. Relocation and residency, two very tough issues to deal with in the collaborative process. I know we've had files, Carrie, Russell and I, on this issue, tough collaborative files. I'm going to talk about that a little bit. And they've entrenched the need to ascertain the voice of the child, the wishes of the child when considering parenting structures and frameworks. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit and how it can benefit the collaborative process and why collaborative process is maybe getting a bit more traction because of it. So first off, Section 7 of the Divorce Act is now solidified. We have to talk to clients about what else is available before they march off to court. We've had lots of clients come through the door, and as one of my partners at my firm says, they just want to ram it into court. They come in and they're all gung-ho. Well, the changes to Section 7 of the Divorce Act make it incumbent on us now as the legal professionals to stop that, to tell them to pump the brakes, say, well, wait a second, there's these other options available. Mediation and collaborative process being the two most prevalent. And of course, I always push collaborative process first because I'm a big proponent of collaborative process. So Section 7.3 in particular ingrains that the parties shall try to resolve through a family dispute resolution process. It's no longer, we encourage the courts to recommend this, or we encourage the lawyers to recommend these other processes. It's now part of the legislation. So I think the thrust of a lot of the March 1st changes is just beefing up the legislation to start saying, okay, this isn't laissez-faire anymore. You have to do these things. We have to push outside of court because court is backlogged, especially with the pandemic. Court's not the right place to be. So I think the legislators got this one right. They've made some of these changes to really push people to these other process options. And so that's one in particular where I think we can take clients at a first consult, talk to them about the options that are available. And it's just going to help the professionals sell collaborative process in a sense, because we're going to be able to say, we don't have a choice. I have to explain this to you. And if you just rush into court without considering these options, we may be looking at a cost award against us. Mm-hmm. So it's helped the lawyers and the professionals really explain to clients that this is no longer your option. I found it interesting too that in the judges, if you talk to the judges, they say they've always been doing this. They've always been recommending, they used to call it ADR, alternative dispute resolution, but now they call it FDR, family dispute resolution. But they historically, and Russ, you can jump in on this, but a lot of the judges would offer on-site mediation. Yeah. But not a lot of them were encouraging people caught up in the court system to switch to collaborative. I think we're starting to see that shift now.
Yeah, I think with, I can think of 7 or 8 Superior Court judges who were collaborative professionals. Yeah. So they're 100% advocates. If they can get a matter off their court docket and into the collaborative process, they'll do whatever they need to help you do that. We're going to talk a little bit about that coming up, but those are some really, really good tips about the Divorce Act. Thank you, Jarret. Let's run our next poll and get to some more audience questions. So one audience question that came in online, thank you again for submitting it. Are your collaborative meetings full team? I always start full team. What are you doing, Jarret?
Yeah, I always try to sell a full team. That poll you ran earlier was great because it hit a lot of the nails on the head. I get a lot of pushback from clients at the onset of using a full team, and it's usually for those 2 biggest reasons. The cost, they see it as added cost. A lot of times people are struggling just to afford a lawyer, let alone a full team. So I get that a lot, and I get that there's maybe 1 issue or maybe 2 issues where they feel like they want to hold back from collaborative process in a full team in general because of it overlaps into using collaborative process in general, but because they might want to go to court, or they might want to reserve the ability to go to court. So I get a lot of pushback on that. I talk to them about the benefits and the cost savings and the efficiency of it. I talk to them about the fact that they may not see it now, but it will be a better process, and their satisfaction at the end of the road will be so much higher if they use a full team.
Great stuff. All right, so I'm going to introduce this poll, and then we're going to do one more question. Oh, I'm not going to introduce the poll. Here are the results. That's fast. What is the role of the expert in the collaborative process? Provide expert opinion on a specific issue. The clear majority, almost 60%. Adjudicate disputes, 13%. Resolve disputes, 17%. Get the matter ready for litigation, for other, so 8%. So thank you everybody for participating in that poll. The one more quick audience question. No, let's keep going here. I want to be mindful of our team time. We're going to get back to the audience questions. So expert reports. Carrie, what do we need to know?
Oh, expert reports. They are wonderful things. I guess in some ways your family professional is providing you with an expert report when they're giving you their parenting plan. It's a great document that I look at as when you had your children, nobody gave you an owner's manual on how to raise them or what to do with them next. That parenting.
That explains it.
I know. It explains everything. I'm looking going, the parenting plan is the best thing. You just an owner manual for your kids. You now know how to deal with them. I look at your separation agreement as your guarantee of how to behave going forward for your family. So I'm going, you're getting 2 manuals that you didn't have beforehand. So that works out really well. You know, our expert reports are phenomenal. I know the 3 of us have done matters together where we've really leaned on those expert reports, whether it be for business valuations. They can be the difference between somebody getting nothing out of a business to us being able to become creative in finding resolution. The expert reports help to take away trust issues, is what I find. We always have one person that's saying, I know this is going on, and the other person saying, absolutely not. We get that expert report, and all of a sudden it's, oh, okay, I didn't understand, or I didn't know. And it helps clarify those things, and it helps to rebuild some of the trust. So whether that's a tax expert report, a business valuation report, sometimes it's just a matter of my report coming in.
Not only just trust in the data, right, but trust in the process as well, because by listening to the client's concerns and worries and walking through them with an expert. One example would be, my husband has cash sales and runs personal expenses through the business, right? So the expert you can list those expenses for the expert. They can investigate it. They can report back to the team. Oftentimes there is some truth to it, right? There could be some cash sales and some personal elements to the business expense, and those are added back in. But that process adds credibility to the parties involved. That's what I've found.
Yeah, I agree with you. And you know what? It's not just trust and process and trust in reports and things like that. It's actually rebuilding some of the family trust.
Right.
And it also gets them to that point when you were rebuilding some of that family trust, we're getting to the point where people can actually make decisions because they have good information. And when you have good information, you're going to make a good decision.
All right, we want to save some time for questions. So Runaway Train. All right, so this is what we're talking about here are these litigation files that are out of control. JJ, what can collaborative practice do for crazy litigation?
Yeah, thanks, Russ. There's a huge amount of files that are locked into this never-ending court cycle. And we try to identify those files and pull them out and as Russ always says, bring them into the next station. And a lot of times we find, and us 3 have worked on files like this, I've worked on files like this with other professionals, a lot of times it just ended up being put into court for maybe one specific reason, a disclosure issue or an immediate concern. And then once a temporary order was made over that one issue, they just stayed locked in the court process because that's where they were. And no one thought to say, well, wait a second, we might be able to deal with 9 out of the 10 issues over here in collaborative process. So the idea behind Runaway Train is taking those files into the collaborative process, but how do we do it? These are the steps we follow. There's about 7 steps in the model that we use to basically do that. And the first step is
give us the steps in like a minute or 2.
Yeah, the first step is the Oscar music playing yet?
Yeah, well, we're gonna do some rapid fire just so we can save time for Q&A.
So first of all, you have to get the parties to stop the court process and agree to the collaborative process. And then you have to decide whether you're fully withdrawing from the court process or just suspending the court process. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more in the presentation. Then you have to possibly amend your collaborative participation agreement if the court action is going to remain live. And we'll talk about that a little bit further as well, and the pros and cons and how we do that. Next, we have to bring in the team. We have to contact the neutral professionals. Next, we have to have our meetings, we have to gather our information, and we have to reach a settlement. Then we decide whether we hop back into court to finish the divorce or whether any parts of the final separation agreement that contains the resolution in the collaborative process needs to be incorporated back into a court order. So having that court action suspended, there's some benefits in how we pull up the train into the next station, the collaborative station. But again, that's kind of the model we use. That's the 7 steps of pulling a matter that's been stuck in court for maybe 2 years unnecessarily, bringing it into the collaborative process and cleaning it up with a final separation agreement.
Great summary. We have full programs on all these subject matters: Divorce Act changes, Runaway Train, Golden Goose. So we're just giving a flavor today, but we do a deeper dive. Let's run the poll. And Carrie's going to spend a minute or two briefly telling us about saving the Golden Goose. The poll is, in what areas can an expert assist the collaborative team? 2 minutes or less. Golden Goose, what you got, Carrie?
Golden Goose, honestly, this is all about saving that family business. The business is the heartblood for so many families, where it is not only supporting one person, it's supporting everyone. So how do we save it, knowing that we have to go through an equalization process? My business evaluators are my best friends when saving businesses. We can get creative. We can find ways that we can have a business be viable, remain viable, and everybody gets what they need out of it. We can get incredibly creative when we're in the collaborative process, which is not always afforded to us when we're in a litigation process. So first thing in saving that Golden Goose is having the right business evaluator doing the business evaluation so that we can start moving forward. And that may include also income determinations for the parties, and seeing what's been run through the business that actually is a family expense, and what can still be run through and what can't be run through, and how do we deal with those pesky business partners that are not part of the family that are going, what about me? What about me? So this is the main thing about saving the Golden Goose.
Okay, your audio is cutting it there. But
a lot of parties to look after. We've got a lot of things to look at.
Carrie, your audio is breaking
End
up.
of the day. Awesome.
Sorry, your audio.
I just lost you for a sec.
Your audio is breaking up. That's
Oh, and
fine.
I even put on a microphone.
You're good. So the goose is the family business, and we want to save the goose using the collaborative process so that it keeps generating income for the family and the children. Let's see our poll results. And what do we got here? Well, tax, legacy, corporate, business, income, parenting, other. That's exactly right. You can use experts in all these areas. And many families won't need an expert for each one of these areas, but it's something to consider, especially if you're going full team. So do you guys want to do a quick fun poll and then get into the Q&A, or you want to get into the Q&A? What do you think?
I think we need a fun poll.
Let's run this poll. Let's see what people are thinking. Okay. And while we're running this poll, Jarret, in 2 minutes or less, tell us about Impasse.
Yeah, so Impasse happens in the collaborative process. I'll try to be serious when I talk about this with that poll up in front of me.
You're
right
a great
now.
guy for letting us have some fun with you. We love you. You know that, right?
So, yeah, I love you too. So Impasse happens in the collaborative process, and everyone is committed to keeping the collaborative process alive. So what do? We look at options to get through Impasse that doesn't end the collaborative process. We look at bringing in senior counsel for second opinions who are collaboratively trained. We look at doing assessments. We look at the parties going to a senior counsel who's collaboratively trained, or a parenting professional or a financial professional together to get an independent opinion from maybe an expert in the field, and bring that information back to the collaborative process. Russ and I had a file where we didn't think it was going to ever settle. We thought the process may eventually terminate. We set up a process to get a very neutral and objective opinion from a lawyer who's practiced for 30 years and knew that particular area of law very well. The parties each submitted a one-page summary, canvassed with their lawyers first to help them develop that one-page summary. They went and met with that lawyer together, came back to the process. He came back to the process, the independent second opinion lawyer, gave them his objective opinion, and we end up settling the case. So there can be lots of options we look at to get through process that doesn't necessarily result in terminating the collaborative process.
And you know, that's one of the biggest objections, right, for both clients and lawyers. You know, what if we hit impasse? The client, I don't want to lose this client, or the client saying, I want you to be my lawyer if we go to court, right? So impasse is always a huge problem, but there's creative ways that you can get through it. oftentimes I find when you hit impasse, that usually means you're probably close to settling the case. Yes, Carrie?
I think what we should be telling our clients at the very beginning, it's not if, it's when we hit impasse.
Right.
There is impasse on every single file, and we can resolve them, and we can get creative in our resolutions, which is fantastic. So it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
Yeah. And it's a normal part of the process, right?
Absolutely.
You need to normalize it. It's going to happen. We have a strategy and a plan on how to work through it. All right, let's do some more Q&A. Bring our host back. Thank you, guys. This was really a fantastic presentation today. And here's Shannon.
Hi, thank you. Thank you so much, Carrie, Jarret, and Russell. That was very insightful. We hope you all enjoyed, and we hope that we've answered, or that the panelists have answered quite a few questions throughout. We have a couple more minutes though, so we'll try and squeeze a few more in here. So first one we have is, what do you do if the other party is being completely unreasonable, they disagree in everything you propose to get an agreement?
It's funny, I just had this problem.
Let's take
Take it away, Carrie.
Honestly, I always go back to the why and asking them, what do they object to? What do they see as resolution? And why are certain things upsetting them? I think this is a great thing for having our family professional involved. They can get down to some of those root issues. And sometimes it's a lot of that is the person doesn't feel like they've been heard. And, you know,
the issue isn't they're not connected at all, right? Somebody's upset about a relationship issue and it's holding up the settlement on an asset. But it might dig down and find out really what is the basis of the objection. That's really insightful, Carrie. Do we have time for one more, Shannon?
It looks like we have time for one more here. So last question we have is, in the joint spreadsheet, how do you determine the date you use to establish the cost basis of something that has a widely fluctuating value? Say, for example, a quarter of a diversified portfolio is invested in the International Equity Fund.
JJ, you want to hit that one out of the park?
That's a financial question, I believe.
Well, it's the data separation, right? It's what the legislation is. But what do you think, Carrie?
I say, you know what, we always start with the data separation 100% of the time is we say, what is the value on the data separation? And then the wonderful thing again about collaborative is we look at, are there adjustments that have to be made after the data separation? If it's a joint portfolio, they're going to take their losses and their increases together, which is fantastic. If it's solely owned and we have some catastrophic event within the marketplace, then I think it's something that we can talk about. And that's the best part about collaborative is that although we're going to put it into the legal model first, because you need to know what that model looks like, we can talk about it and see, is there an adjustment that needs to be made and is it reasonable?
Great answer.
Great, thank you. I think that's all the time that we have for questions today. Thank you so much to everyone who sent them in. So we just want to thank you once again, and we hope you all have a great day.
1 o'clock. I don't know how you do it. You're amazing, Shannon. Thank you so much.
All you guys.
Jarret,
Thanks, guys.
Carrie, that was a lot of fun. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you, everyone. It's always a pleasure.
Okay, guys. Have a good afternoon. Thank you.